Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 33 female, broke up with the father of my 2 children, 11 male and 9 male, 7 years ago. We weren't married or anything, but our breakup was amicable, and we co-parented on good terms for a couple of years. Then he met his wife, and once I met her, things changed. It was clear she didn't like me, or the fact that X and I could get along. When we met, she called me the kid's other mom, implying she was the mom, and she glared daggers in my direction when I told her I wasn't the other mom, but just the mom. She would call them her boys, and said she was a boy mom whenever she was speaking to me. She tried to push my ex back and ordered all communication about them go through her instead of him. And when I refused, she told me I didn't have the right. Once that fight happened, she started sending me photo updates whenever X and her had a day out with the boys, or if they did anything with them for a significant amount of time. She'd text me anywhere from 3 to 5 photos and say she had a great day with her husband and her children. I saved all of that because I didn't like her attitude toward me. When I tried talking to my ex about it, he told me she was trying really hard to be good to the boys, and I needed to accept it and help her take on an active second mom role because they had trouble getting the boys bonded to her. I told him how she spoke to me wasn't acceptable, and he said it came from insecurity, and he felt like I was a big enough person to know that. While we were talking, she texted me saying I had no right to discuss her children with her husband. I showed X, and he told me it was just her being insecure. But this was the breakdown in our co-parenting relationship, because I didn't appreciate the fact I was supposed to let his wife walk all over me and push me out eventually, because it was clear she wanted that. She'd get into a snit anytime she wasn't given full parental access, which means when she wasn't able to add her family and friends to the school pickup list, and she wasn't able to change which pediatrician they went to see. X never fought me too hard on that stuff, but she sure as hell tried to. She also hated that she couldn't take them out of state to visit her relatives whenever she wanted. She introduced herself as the kid's mom every single time we went to a parent-teacher conference, or she showed up at a medical appointment for our youngest who has some health issues. We actually returned to court twice over this. X and her were told by the judge that she was not the mother of the children, and she did not have the right to impersonate me when it came to school or medical settings. The judge also warned that the court would not take kindly to any alienation of the children. X's wife tried to claim I was engaging in it, and that the proof was in the kids not calling her mom, even though they were very young when she became their mom. The judge asked for proof, and claimed that wasn't proof. The second time, there was a documented incident of her saying she was the kid's real mom in front of them, and the judge restricted certain things she can do. She can't do drop-offs of the kids, and she can't show up to appointments or school meetings that require both parents. That decision pissed her off immensely. But the good thing is she contacts me far less now, and that works for me. I try to make something like co-parenting work with my ex, and I focus on the kids. But apparently, X and her have been through some stuff. She found out she can't have biological children, and they were rejected for adoption. The boys have expressed that they don't like her, which I knew a little about because X requested permission for family therapy for them, which I consented to because we already had the boys in individual therapy. But therapy is not helping to foster a closer relationship. She came to me when they had the boys, and info dumped all this stuff onto me at the front door of my house. I almost closed the door on her, which she noticed but kept talking about her issues, and then told me to have some compassion for her and at least hear her out and try to help since we're both the mothers of the boys. I rolled my eyes when she asked me for compassion. I didn't even try to hide it. And I had no sympathy for her, none. I can't say I'm upset that my kids don't like her, seeing as I think it would open up the avenue for her to try harder to push me out and would possibly open them up to being alienated against me. She got into another snit at the door and I told her to leave. She was insulting me, but I moved away from the door so I couldn't hear her. She followed up with 10 texts that night, and then my ex told me I owed his wife an apology for rolling my eyes at her. Now, maybe I was wrong to roll my eyes at her like that. Maybe I could have been more mature. So I'll ask, am I the a-hole? OP's ex-wife has spent years trying to erase OP from her own children's lives. She overstepped in every possible way, introducing herself as their mom, attempting to make medical and educational decisions, and blatantly disregarding court rulings. And now, after all this, she expects compassion from OP? Absolutely not. Rolling eyes was the mildest response OP could have had after everything she's put OP through. She's only upset because she's facing the reality that she will never be their mother, no matter how hard she tries to force it. OP does not owe her an apology. OP owes herself the peace of not engaging in her delusions any further. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Your ex is just as much at fault here as his wife. He allowed her to trample over your boundaries for years, justified her toxic behavior as insecurity, and expected you to just roll over and let her take control. The fact that you had to go to court twice to get her to back off says everything. And now, after years of her treating you with outright disrespect, she suddenly wants your help because her personal dreams of motherhood have fallen apart? That's not how this works. You have always been reasonable, and she has never extended that same courtesy to you. Keep your boundaries firm. Your ex's wife is not entitled to your compassion. The audacity of this woman is unreal. She's tried to completely push you out of your children's lives, gone behind your back to make major parental decisions, and even fought in court to claim a title that was never hers. The fact that your ex allowed this for so long makes him just as complicit. And now, because she's struggling personally, she expects you to suddenly be her shoulder to cry on? Nope, not happening. The truth is, she wasn't trying to bond with the boys for their sake. She was doing it for herself, to fulfill her own need to be mom. You don't owe her an apology for rolling your eyes. If anything, she owes you a lifetime of apologies for what she's put you through. Not the a-hole. Your husband's wife is a few Fruit Loops short of a full bowl of cereal. She's not playing with a full deck of cards. Her mental elevator stalls at the 4th floor. How is she so rude and nasty towards you, then basically begs you to get your kids to like her? Whatever that means, I don't know. I assume she wanted to be placated, meaning you tell them to be nice and treat her the same way they treat you, which is insane in itself. My 35 female husband passed away unexpectedly recently. We share a son who is 7. My husband had an affair and has a son who is 5 with his affair partner. After I found out about the affair, we separated, and he barely saw our son or contributed to our son's life. While he did marry his affair partner, according to the relevant culture and religious laws, his son is still illegitimate. Legally, he cannot inherit from my husband. Only my son can. My husband's affair partner has been asking me not to enforce the terms of the will and to split my son's share of inheritance with her son. In my mind, that money goes a little way to making up for my husband's absence in our son's life. Also, that inheritance will be in trust for my son until he becomes an adult. So, realistically, any money I gave her would come from my share. Edited to clarify previous sentence. My son's inheritance is in trust until he reaches adulthood. I am not a trustee and literally could not split it even if I wanted to. In order for the affair partner to get anything from us, it would come from my portion, which is the exact same amount as hers. The affair partner will inherit the same amount of money as me as a spouse, so she can use that to help her child if she wants to. The law is on my side, but I'm wondering if I should help her. Not the a-hole. She chose to have an affair with your husband. This is a consequence of being an affair partner. Not the a-hole. If this woman that had the affair with your ex knew about you, then hell no. She didn't care about you when she was with your then husband, so why should you care about her? Plus, if your ex's will says your son gets X and left nothing to the other one, that has nothing to do with you. There's a reason your husband's son can't legally inherit from him, and it's precisely because of the fact that he was committed to you and your son while betraying your trust. Don't take away from your son's future when she'll be receiving her fair cut. Not the a-hole. My 17 male. Parents died 2 years ago, and since then, I've been living with my uncle's family. He has a daughter my age. My cousin and I both want to go to college in the U.S. We're international students from a developing country. I consistently get good grades, got into Stanford, and have life skills like being able to cook and clean that mean I do well living in a foreign country. My cousin gets abysmal grades. The only college she got into so far was a college with an 80% acceptance rate that isn't highly ranked. And that too was after hiring somebody to write her essays for her. because she can't even speak or communicate in English fluently, and is generally naive and ill-equipped to survive moving to a new, unfamiliar country. As far as I can tell, she just wants to go to America because it's a way to show off, not because she actually cares. Anyhow, I didn't get that good of financial aid from Stanford because I'm an international. 4 years would cost a full sum of my uncle's college fund. My cousin didn't get much aid either, and hers costs about the same. I don't want to take on debt, so I convinced my uncle to spend the college fund entirely on me instead of her. First off, Stanford is much higher ranked than the college she got into. Secondly, I have a proven track record of doing well, which makes it more likely I would do well and complete my degree. By contrast, she gets poor grades and can't even speak or read English fluently. It's evident that any money spent on her would be a waste. My uncle agreed and told his daughter she could either go into debt or go to a far cheaper college in our home country. This upset her, and she said that the only reason my uncle agreed to this is because she's a girl, making him not want his daughter not under his control. I mean, we live in a conservative country, so that certainly could play a part. But I pointed out that her failure to get into a college worth paying so much for, and the fact that she wouldn't do well if he let her go, were probably a reason. She called me the a-hole. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole, and culturally, you'll do horribly here. In America, people will not understand this scenario. You do not take someone else's daughter's college money. She is his daughter, and that's where his money should go. If she can't come to America, he should give her his money to go where she can succeed. You're the a-hole, majorly. You robbed her of a future because you're selfish. I'd also like to point out, your cousin hasn't thrived in a conservative country. Did you ever think it could be an environmental thing? You're easily the biggest a-hole on here today, and so is your uncle. You should be grateful to get even half, but that isn't good enough. Definitely agree your cousin shouldn't go to a foreign country for college if she is not independent, has basic life skills, and set up to be successful academically at school. Big setup for her to struggle, and she'll be somewhere without family or good grasp of the language to ask for help. So unless we're making any of that up, not the a-hole. Hey y'all, I need unbiased opinions. My ex-husband and daughter's father passed away when my daughter was 9. My husband had a heart attack while home alone with my daughter. My daughter suffered extreme trauma to the point where she wouldn't talk. After consulting with a therapist, he suggested we move somewhere that won't constantly remind my daughter of what happened. We ended up moving, and in the process, I sold a majority of his stuff, only leaving about a box worth. My daughter, though, decided to keep a blanket my husband got her on their father-daughter trip to Mexico. She kept the blanket and slept with it every day. Eventually, through therapy, she got better and started to carry on a more normal life. Now she's 20 in college and doing just fine. Now, here's the issue. The blanket is about 13 years old and looks like a rag. It's stained with rips and a completely different color than it originally was. The blanket is completely worn out by a few years. My daughter also recently got her first apartment and moved out of her college dorms. She basically told me to keep everything except the furniture, since it's all old and from high school and I don't need it anymore. She recently picked up the furniture and I decided to go through her old stuff. I eventually found the blanket. When she left for college, she left it here, and even when she came back for break, she never slept with it anymore, just randomly placed it in her closet. Obviously, she didn't want it anymore, so I threw it out. Fast forward to now. She spontaneously visited for the weekend, hour drive. We were having a nice time when during dinner, I reminded her about the blanket and laughed that I threw it out if she didn't mind. Her mood changed from laughing and having fun to complete psycho. She yelled about how could I throw the blanket out, knowing how much it meant to her, and that it was the only reminder she had of her dad. I told her about the box of things, and that she left the blanket here. She then left without saying another word. She ended up blocking my phone number and all forms of contact. She then got my and his family involved to the point where they kept calling me just to tell me I'm a horrible mother. Eventually, my ex-mother-in-law called, saying my daughter was never going to speak to me again, and that I deserved it. I really don't feel that way. She didn't even remember the blanket. I believe she's just doing this for attention and to make me look bad, which is why I'm posting here for unbiased opinions. Obviously, she didn't want it anymore. Obviously she did, and you didn't think to ask. You're the a-hole. You not only threw out her memento of her dead father, but you laughed about it. I feel so bad for her. I'd be both livid and devastated. Also, you'd have to be really dense to not realize she wasn't holding on to it for aesthetic reasons, but for sentimental ones. She will never forget what you did, ever. You're the a-hole. Huge, huge, huge a-hole. How do you think it's okay to throw away the last thing your daughter has of her father without even asking? Honestly, and what twisted reality is that okay? You're the a-hole. Just because she didn't mention it or take it doesn't mean she didn't want it. She probably just never thought you would throw something like that away. Context. My brother and I are twins, but not identical. I'm a woman and he is a man. During the delivery, my brother was born prematurely, as my mother got pregnant again with me still in the womb, which made my parents pay more attention to him. To make matters worse, they always wanted to have a male child. As they say, women are difficult to raise. All my life I served as a slave in my house, not being able to have anything while my brother was spoiled and given everything he wanted. During birthdays, I never got anything from my parents, only from relatives. And when the party was over, my brother would get my gifts for him while my parents didn't say anything. I lost friends because he was always hitting on them. He's ugly. None of them like him. And he told my friends that I was fake and badmouthed them behind their backs, which was a lie. He knew I was the black sheep of the family, so he took advantage whenever he could and humiliated me to make me feel better. I was extremely humiliated during my life by him, and I only got freedom when I turned 18 and went to college. My aunt paid for my college because my parents didn't want to spend money on me. When my parents found out, they demanded that I ask my aunt to split the money between me and my brother, as he had already spent a large part of it buying a car. When I denied it, they yelled at me, called me names, and didn't speak to me for months. My brother was always jealous of me, so he chose the same course as me when he found out I was going to study software engineering. He has never shown interest before. However, when we graduated, he went to work at a friend's company in an administrative position, earning well and without specializing in the area in which he graduated. It's been about 15 years since we graduated, and I'm now in a great job in a very specific field that pays a lot. The company my brother worked for went bankrupt, and when that happened, he called me, after years, to ask me to get a job where I work for him. I said I wouldn't help him, because in addition to hating him, his resume is terrible, and he has no experience in the area after years of graduation. He told our parents, escalating the situation, and they called me to call me names and say I have to help him as he is family. To make matters worse, my brother is married and has 2 children with his wife, but he doesn't have any money saved because he doesn't know how to stop spending. Without a well-paying job, he will lose his home and end up homeless as our parents currently live in another country. I have a lot of contacts at my company. I could certainly help him, but I don't feel the slightest desire to help an incompetent, entitled a-hole person. Some friends said that I could help not for him, but for their children. This got me thinking a lot, and I wanted to know, am I the a-hole for not helping my brother to get a good job? Not the a-hole. It would be one thing if he had the necessary skill set to work in your company, but since he doesn't, you'd be dinging your reputation, burning a favor, or both, to use any influence you have to get him a job. Never sacrifice yourself for someone who doesn't give a damn about you. It sounds like you're both in your 30s. You're not responsible for him. If you were to introduce him to your employer, he could turn out to be a liability for you, costing you your job at some point. So again, you're not responsible for him. Not the a-hole, and do not let him use you as a reference at your job. Not the a-hole. While your friends are, in a sense, right about your brother's children, they have grandparents who could step in to help if necessary. I don't know what your brother's wife does, but does she have a job outside of the home where there is some income? I don't understand why you still have contact with your brother or your parents. I would definitely go no contact with your brother, low contact for the moment with your parents. If they call or contact again, tell them they need to take responsibility for their golden child. If they verbally are aggressive to you again, no contact with them also. It is time in your life to take care of you. Never easy with family drama, of which I am familiar. Live your life. Let all of us know how you are. I, 29 male, have 3 kids, aged 7 to 9, with my ex, Emily. We were both brought up very religiously, so there was a lot of pressure to get married young and have a ton of kids. When Emily was pregnant with our 3rd, I started having doubts about the lifestyle, and by extension, the relationship. We ended up breaking up after our youngest was born. She married a man, Daniel, the next year, and they've had 4 kids, and she's pregnant with a 5th. A while back, she made social media pages where she talks about her life and kids. One of those pages now has almost 50,000 followers, and the other also has a sizable amount, with some of her videos having over 1 million views. This bothered me a lot because of the content, and I asked her many times to not put our kids' face on social media, but she refused. Recently, the oldest had her birthday on a day when I had her. Emily asked if we could rearrange the date so she could have her, but I refused. She made a video complaining about this. I had already planned her birthday party, what I was going to make for her for dinner, and the cake, and she was really looking forward to it. I compromised and told Emily that she could bring her kids and husband to the party that was earlier that day, and that she and Daniel would be invited to dinner. She made a video complaining about this. On the day of the party, Emily brought her camera and video equipment. I didn't say anything because it's normal to take pictures. I did ask that nothing went on social media. Halfway through the party, I noticed she's taking a lot of pictures and videos, and when I checked her Instagram story, it was full of pictures of my daughter. I repeated to her that I didn't want any pictures put on social media, and she said okay. When it came time to cut the cake, and she made our daughter take 1 million pictures with her sisters and half-siblings, and they were also on the Instagram story, I asked her to leave and let her know she wouldn't be invited to dinner. She threw a fit, and also made a video complaining about it that was full of comments vilifying me. Some of our friends have been saying that I'm controlling, and that it's her job and her income, and I shouldn't control it because I don't pay child support. I have them 5 days of the week. She's a stay-at-home mom. Daniel supports her and the kids. This is just extra money. She says it's her hobby and I shouldn't try to stop her from doing it. My friends say it's not my business what she does on social media, and that I was wrong to kick her out. Emily is also still pissed about it, and has been cold to me ever since. Am I the a-hole for kicking her out? Not the a-hole. I understand your concerns. I think both parents should agree to putting a child on social media. Plus, she keeps lying to you, which must be utterly annoying, I imagine. It doesn't feel like co-parenting at all. Not the a-hole. It's really sad parents can't just be with their kids without thinking, how can I use this precious moment to increase my following on social media or gain likes? Protect your kids, and I'll say you should be doing more. Great job though, Dad. I know it's an unfair position to be put in. Not the a-hole. It's your party and your house. Your ex needs to learn to follow your requests or rules while a visitor in your house. You asked and she ignored, which is the reason she was asked to leave. She has no one to blame besides herself, but you know she doesn't see it that way with her proving it by posting to social. You may need to see a lawyer about posting to social media when it comes to your kids. At least you will know any possible avenues available to you. To give some background, I've always admired my mother-in-law's wedding dress and expressed interest in wearing it for my own wedding. I understand that it's a sentimental and valuable item, but I thought it would be a lovely gesture and a way to honor her on my special day. We also have a really special connection. When I brought up the idea with my mother-in-law, I was taken aback by her response. She told me that the dress was not available for me to wear and that she had already promised it to another family member. I was disappointed, but I respected her decision and moved on. However, a few weeks later, I found out that the dress was not actually promised to anyone else and that my mother-in-law was simply unwilling to part with it. This hurt my feelings and made me feel disrespected. As a result, I made the difficult decision to uninvite my mother-in-law from my wedding. I understand that this may seem like an overreaction, but the dress was something that I felt strongly about, and her refusal to share it with me left a bad taste in my mouth. Now I'm wondering if I made the right decision, and if I'm in the wrong for uninviting my mother-in-law. I don't want to cause any more drama or hurt feelings, but I also want to stand up for myself and what I believe in. So, am I the a-hole for uninviting my mother-in-law from my wedding after she refused to hand over her wedding dress? I would appreciate any and all perspectives on this situation.